So President Trump says the government shutdown could be ended if Republicans take the, quote, nuclear option of ending the filibuster. Trump told 60 Minutes, quote, the Republicans have to get tougher. If we end the filibuster, we can do exactly what we want. He also posted about that desire on Truth Social. The move is something Senate Majority Leader John Thune has said he's unwilling to do. Meanwhile, the Trump administration has until noon today to update a federal judge who ruled last week the Agriculture Department must disperse SNAP benefits after nearly 42 million Americans lost benefits on Saturday because of the shutdown. A Rhode Island judge says the administration must either make a full SNAP payment by the end of the day today or a partial payment by Wednesday after the White House reversed a plan to use a $5 billion contingency plan to keep the program running. They have the money. Over 42 million Americans rely on SNAP, and the shutdown has led to long lines at food banks and emergency food distribution centers. Agricultural Secretary Brooke Rollins says the contingency fund won't even cover about half of November's SNAP needs. Yesterday, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said SNAP payments could be made as soon as Wednesday, but that the government had to figure out what the process is to make such payments.
You know, Claire McCaskill, a lot to talk about there, and we're going to be going to new polling very soon that show most Americans do blame Donald Trump and the Republican Party for the shutdown. But before we get there, just let's talk about the filibuster for a second. One of the reasons why John Thune's saying, we don't want to go there. It seems every time a party's in power, they say there are some people that say they want to end the filibuster. It happened when Joe Biden was in power. It happened when Donald Trump was in power before coming from Donald Trump. He's saying it again. And yet the Republicans, this does seem to be one area where they understand that turnabout's fair play. And what they do unto the Democrats will soon do unto them.
Yeah, I think people need to remember that the Senate is one place you can't gerrymander, which means we are always going to have states where the power will go back and forth. Look at a state like Pennsylvania, where you have Josh Shapiro, a really strong Democratic governor, but Bob Casey lost in Pennsylvania to McCormick, and that's what helped the Senate get its majority. Well, Pennsylvania is still Pennsylvania, and going forward, there's a good chance that Democrats could win back that seat. Same thing in Ohio, same thing in other states. So when that happens, those Republicans in the Senate know that the Senate being the Senate is over. They are the House. It is just who's in power, even by a hangnail. And that means they have everything and the other party has nothing. That is not the way the Senate has worked through history. And frankly, it's really bad for our democracy because the only place you have a chance to get compromise and lasting policy changes, that's the Senate.
So according to the latest NBC News poll, 52% blame the GOP and Trump, while 42% blame Democrats. 4% blame all parties involved. And Joe, you know, in interviews past, Donald Trump has said it's the president. If there's a shutdown, it's the president who really
He's always said it's the president's fault.
Yeah.
Yep.
Also in that poll, Democrats appear to have an early lead when it comes to next year's fight for control of Congress. 50% of Americans want the Democratic Party to control Congress versus 42% who want Republicans to have full control. As Joe mentioned, roughly 2/3 of voters say the president has failed to meet expectations on the economy. Another 2/3 say he hasn't lived up to expectations when it comes to looking out for the middle class, inflation,
those are just
and the cost of living.
Deadly numbers. I mean, they're just
affordability.
Yeah, they would be for any party, Dave Weigel. I mean, you show right track, wrong track, and then you show these numbers. I don't care if it's for the last Democratic president or the next Democratic president. You don't have to know the president's name. You can look at these numbers and understand it's a problem for the party in power. Another reason why John Thune may be going, yeah, you know what, I think we may keep the filibuster. Because when you think about it, John Thune, since Barack Obama got elected, he's been in the Senate, 12 of the 17 years that he's been in the Senate. Democrats have had a president of the White House. So again, maybe Donald Trump and maybe 3 or 4 people that work for Donald Trump don't understand that there's this ebb and flow in American politics, and it comes usually every 2 years. But John Thune and Republicans understand that. And you look at these numbers, and right now things seem to be breaking against Republicans, certainly on the economy, on the right track, wrong track areas.
That's true. And what are Republicans not getting because the filibuster exists? They have found that you can get, if you control the presidency, a lot of your spending priorities done through the president deciding not to spend money through sending rescissions package to Congress. They already have no filibuster for judges. Democrats started that. Republicans sped it up. Thune reformed the filibuster just this year, reformed Senate rules so they could have block confirmations of nominees. So they are speeding up the work of the Senate. The worry, if they're listening to Democratic candidates, I find more and more Democratic Senate candidates who are saying if they get there, they want to get rid of the filibuster. And why is that? They look at the Biden experience, before that the Obama experience, and think, how much more policy could we have passed if we only needed 51 votes? How much could we would have run on a higher minimum wage or a public option, or the things that just didn't happen because the filibuster exists? If Republicans are listening to Democrats, they expect them one day, a not more radical party, but certainly more radical in how they use rules, to change that rules. They don't want to make it easier for them.